Ha! Let's see then. Yeah.
1分は経った。死なない。
Yeah, that's right.
だから死にませんと何度も言ったはずです。
Indeed, he has.
なぜ神、私は仰せの通りに。
And now this guy's.
出番に三上を。
Let's go! Nate River, right up top. Oh.
自分たちの目で確認してください。最初の4人は我々 SPK の本名に間違いありません。
Anthony Carter.
そしてここにいて唯一名前がないのが
Yagami
八
Light.
神ライト。
Ah. And he's like, I
神
win.
はあなたを神と呼び、言われた通りにしたと言った。
He's caught.
決ま
It's
り
over.
です。
罠だ。これは罠だ。ニアが僕を陥れるために仕組んだ罠だ。ノートに名前を書いても死なないというのはおかしいじゃないか。それが罠だという証拠。
It is a trap to get you, yes.
いや、違う。
Yeah, and he lost his composure.
罠だ。そんなやつは知らない。ライト君、もう遅い。ニアの勝ちだ。
Let's go, Aizawa.
君は僕の勝ちだと言った。あれは自白したのと同じだ。
Indeed. Just couldn't hold it in, could you?
ライト君、
Oh, Matsuda.
なんで。やめろ。
キラ。あなたの負けです。
I've got to say, that feels damn good.
あ
Damn
なたは
good.
さっき自分の勝ちを宣言しましたね。
In front of everyone.
確かに本来あなたは勝っていた。私は負けていました。しかし私が最初にここで細工をしたと言ったのは本物のノートに対してもだったんです。店の方は一部分でしたが本物の方は全てをすり替えました。
Yes!
これが本物のノートです。
So he can't see Ryuk.
三上の使ったペンと同じペン、筆跡まで完璧に真似し、外見中身ともそっくり。
Wow.
ジェバンニが一晩でやってくれました。
Giovanni.
この本物のノートに触っていたから私には死神が見えています。
Oh, is that the reason he had that smirk? The L
死
smile?
神さん、はじめまして。ニアです。
Could Ryuk not tell them?
リュウクです。見えているというのも本当ということ。
Yeah, he's got the real deal.
このノート、ページの端がちょっと切れてるんですが、この
the
切り
pieces.
離した部分に名前を書いても死にますか？
ああ、死ぬな。
それでどれだけ殺し、我々は欺いてきたのか。
まさか三上が裏切って。
違いますよ。メロのおかげです。ここ
Mmm.
まで言えばあなたならわかるでしょう。
ノートに高田の名前が。僕が高田を殺した。その1分後の設定。まさ
Oh.
かあの時三上も。
Indeed, he took initiative.
神は見張らね動けぬと。高田がああいう状態になれば、それは私の役目。バカが。
Funny how he thought of the exact same thing though, right?
指示しておいただろうが。
三上は銀行に行っている。
There it is, right? That moment.
私の調べでは三上は毎月25日に銀行に行き2日続けては几帳面な三上としてはおかしい行動
They adequately set that up.
三上は貸金庫へ本物のノートがあり高田の名前が
So he must have seen Ryuk almost instantly, right? If Ryuk happened to be there at that time. But couldn't Mikami just keep a
ここで初めて
peace?
私は偽のノートの可能性に気づきました。この状況を作り出してくれた
Mello, he played his
メ
part.
ロのおかげです。
Indeed. He took the big risk.
分かっていたのかもしれない。
He did. He did.
俺がやるしかないな。
メロは分かっていたんです。私もメロも一人では目標の L を越すことはできない
Ah,
か
how
もしれない。
about that? Mello and N together, though.
二人なら L に並べる。
Wow.
二人なら L を越せる。そして今私たちは L が敗れたキラに確たる証拠を突きつけている。
Absolutely. Love it.
言い逃れられるのなら言い逃れてみてください。
It should be interesting. Let's see how Light deals with it. He's not gonna give up, right? Oh. This is the real Light Yagami.
僕がキラだ。
You don't say. Ah,
そうだ、僕がキラだ。
interesting.
新世界の神
You're nothing, man.
今の世界ではキラが法であり、
Though,
キラが秩序を守っている。もはや僕は正義。キラが現れ6年。戦争はなくなり、世界の犯罪は7割減少した。ノートを手にした時思った。僕がやるしかない。いや、僕にしかできない。
the chosen one, eh?
他の者にできたか。ここまでやれたか。この先できるか。
いいえ、あなたはただの人殺しです。そしてこのノートは史上最悪の殺人兵器です。神になろうなどと勘違いしているクレイジーな大量殺人犯。
Got complex.
ただそれだけの何者でもありません。
This must sting him. This must sting so much. Oh. Oh. Oh, shit. But how does he...
仕込んだノートだ。
Yes, Matsuda!
松田、バカ野郎。
Get his ass.
松田、誰を撃ってる。ふざけるな。
Good voice acting.
何だったんだ。君のお父さんは一体何のために。八神総一郎か。そうだ松田。ああいうクソ真面目でまっすぐな人間が損をするんだ。そんな世の中でいいのか。分かったらそこにいるそいつらを殺せ。父親を死に追いやってバカを見たで済ませるのか。
Exactly. Yes! Oh!
殺す。こいつは殺さないとダメだ。
Wow. He feels so betrayed. All of that emotion hitting him at the same time, yeah. Yeah, they had to stop him from doing the kill shot.
なんだこれは。
It's a dose of your own medicine.
三上、何してる。誰か一体どうすれば。
Hell? He stabbed himself? Oh, is he making like a... He's giving him a chance to maybe get out? But he got pumped full of lead, man. How far can he get? Wow, great shot. Great shot. Wow. Wow. Look at that look on his face. Sun sets on Light Yagami. Huh. Hmm.
お前の負けだ、ライト。最初に言ったよな。
That it was
お前が死んだ時、
that he was going to be
俺
the
がお前
one.
の名前を俺のノートに書くことになると。
Is this the moment?
ここで死ね。
And look at that. It's Ryuk's turn to finally
結構
crack it
長い
open.
間、互いの退屈しのぎになったじゃないか。
Wow.
いろいろ面白かったぜ。
Is this a time skip? Is this around the same time or? Oh, it's that rooftop. Or is that not the rooftop L in Light? Wow. Yeah. That's a great finale. Great finale. Whew. Okay, folks, that is the conclusion to Death Note. First of all, it's a conclusion to an anime I've completed. An anime, that's a bit of a big deal. Even though Death Note does have its glaring issues in the second half, right? As far as pacing goes, realistically speaking, it should have been quite a bit longer, right? It ends at 37 episodes, but and I know, as of this point, I know for a fact that there's enough material there that it could have been much, much longer, right? Probably should have reached at least 50 episodes. It was brought to my attention that, yeah, there's quite a bit that gets cut from the manga adaptation, or from the manga for the anime adaptation. So, of course, I should specify that. Indeed, I do hope to check out the manga. I mean, first of all, of course, the whole manga, but, I'll begin with the second half of the series, right? And then, of course, I'll go back and read the whole thing. Because, as the series ends, of course, I'll get into the episode itself. As the series ends, there is this really clear feeling of, I don't know, something that doesn't feel quite complete, right? Something that was a little bit condensed. I feel like there's so much that still needs to be covered, right? Some sort of epilogue, right? The aftermath. Oh my goodness. There's so much that can be explored, and that really should be explored, in my opinion, at least. Hell, it's possible that it was explored in the manga, right? The ending does feel a bit abrupt. It does. As it's playing out, as it's getting close to its conclusion, I was hoping, or I was almost expecting that, there might be a quick time skip, right? I mean, there seems to be an indication of a time skip through Misa, who, unfortunately seems to have jumped to her death, right? It wasn't shown on screen, but, I think there's enough indication there. I mean, you could tell, right? The setup of that situation. I kind of thought that was the same rooftop as L and Light's big moment, right, in episode 24. But no, it couldn't have been that building, of course. It looked really similar, though, the layout. But you see that ultimately, yes, Misa could not live in a world without light, right? As kind of hinted some time ago in the first half of the series. I believe it was during that conversation. It was L, Misa, or it might have been just those two. Now listen, it was a little bit out of my control, right? The big break that happened last year. In fact, it was around this time last year, right? In June, I believe I departed in June, late May or June, something like that. But this is July, so yeah. So it's not exactly this time last year, but still, it was not part of my plans to leave. I didn't want to take a break that long, but I think Death Note is a series that certainly suffered because of that break. I'll be honest, I'll be upfront. I don't think this post-episode discussion or analysis is about to be an entire series review or analysis, right? This is probably going to be more of a episode, more of a finale analysis. I feel like I need to go back. I feel like I really need to go back. A series like this, 37 episode series, it really shouldn't have taken me this long, but unfortunately some of that is out of my hands, or it was out of my hands. And then of course, unfortunately, it was put on break once again for, I think, 3-4 months, I believe. That was simply because I was just trying to do too much on the channel, right? You live and you learn. I tried to take on too much, and I just couldn't execute it. It was just too much on the plate, and for that reason, I kind of had to step back a bit, put this on hold, put Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood on hold, and of course, that is up next. And of course, for that, I really do hope there's no major breaks in the middle, right? That it doesn't have to go on hold for any reason. I certainly hope to get to a point that allows me to upload, episodes much quicker, right? It's a long series, folks, and there's so much I want to get to, right? You've seen the list, be it on Patreon, be it on YouTube. I recently posted the entire watch list, stuff I'm interested in, stuff that I could possibly pick from, be it through polls, be it through my own choice. And if you haven't seen it, go check out the latest community post. I posted it there because a lot of people showed interest in the stuff I'm interested in. So yeah, I posted it there. Though of course, it's always been on Patreon. Anyone can go to the Patreon link and see it. You don't have to become a patron to see the plans. It's on the homepage. But yeah, of course, I do hope I can get through FMAB a lot quicker. But let's kind of circle back to Death Note. Yeah, I do feel like I need to get back to it. I do feel like I need to watch it again. There's just too many breaks in the middle. And of course, I really do need to go check out the manga, right? It was just far too rushed. And, it feels like that's kind of like a universal opinion on the matter, that indeed it is quite rushed. The pacing is just kind of insane. And it does suffer a bit. I think it does suffer a bit in that sense. It's certainly a tale of two halves, isn't it? It's like a classic football term. Yeah, it is a tale of two halves. That's for damn sure, right? That's for damn sure. And because of that, you see that some of these characters also kind of suffered. Mello, I think is, I think there could have been so much more time spent with Mello, especially given the impact he's had. And yes, ultimately his death was a satisfying one because his contribution is a massive one, right? A crucial one. At that. Speaking of crucial moments, I love how characters like Giovanni and Matsuda, right? Just normal people. But, normal yet, of course, people like Giovanni and Matsuda, but Giovanni specifically, of course, to be in those positions, you have to work hard. But of course, Matsuda's been set up as kind of like the comic relief, the clown of the group. But here, he played such a crucial role. And it was heartbreaking to see Matsuda break down like that, to see Light Yagami, right? It crushed him. It absolutely crushed him. Yes, it's a bit silly of him to be so, so sure that Light Yagami is innocent in the first place, but still, to see him crushed like that, to see him realize that he did not care one bit for his own father, right? Someone Matsuda clearly cared for as well, right? As a mentor, perhaps a father figure himself, right? A father figure for him, Matsuda, that is. So, for Matsuda to see Light Yagami behave in this manner, to be so nonchalant about his father, oh, you mean Soichiro Yagami, right? Yeah, that must have killed him inside. That must have destroyed him, crushed him, and it did. You see it on screen, right? He's heartbroken. Speaking of crucial, how crucial was Matsuda? He played every part in taking out Light Yagami and making sure that no one else dies here. Right? And, realistically speaking, he was only going to write down, he only had the chance, if somehow he managed to write it down in the piece in the watch, it was going to be near, right? I believe it must have been near. I guess I kind of missed it, but yeah. He saved Nier's life, right? He shot him, and then ultimately he almost executed him. He had every intention to execute Light Yagami, right? He was that angry. Matsuda was about to execute Light Yagami. Of course, the rest of the task force kind of stopped him from taking that final step. It really reminds you of 7, the ending of 7. Of course, the ending of 7 plays out a bit different. But here, Matsuda is kind of saved from that. And by 7, I mean the David Fincher film. Iconic. You need to go watch that. And I'm so happy about the fact that Matsuda played such a major role right at the end here. Right, pumps him full of lead that ultimately leads to his death. Like, even if Ryuk doesn't write his name down, he's going to bleed out, right? He's going to actually. That being said, let's take that back. You see that they are in pursuit of Light Yagami, so they would have caught up to Light Yagami. Ryuk makes a choice there. okay, this is it. This is the end of the line. Light, yeah, you're thoroughly lost. This is the time. This is the end, right? So I'm going to write your name. So yeah, actually, yeah, never mind. He wasn't going to just bleed out, unless, of course, he was able to somehow, hide somewhere and no one's going to find him or something, Then maybe he was just going to bleed out regardless. But yeah, if they caught him, yeah, he would have been on trial, and that in itself is a whole different thing. And then Ryuk himself brings up the whole notion of, well, who knows how long that's going to be, and how that could get really boring. So Ryuk decides this is the end of the line for Light Yagami. How's that for poetic justice, right? Light Yagami gets to experience the Kira killing himself, right? He gets to experience that moment of panic. He gets to experience the same thing Ray Pember felt in that moment, right? He gets to experience that. He gets to experience the same feelings as Naomi, as so many of the others that he used, that he manipulated, innocent people that he killed. Let's never forget that, folks. Regardless of your opinion on Light Yagami, he killed so many innocent people for self-gain, for self-preservation, right? All of that. Yes, there's the whole argument that, anyone who goes against, once he's established his MO, then anyone that is a potential roadblock, anyone that is kind of going to stop Kira from carrying out his master plan, is then evil, is then the enemy, right? But come on, that's bullshit, folks. These are innocent people like Ray Pember. No, I'm not sure that argument really stands up, right? Yeah, it stands up from Light Yagami and Kira's point, right? And people who really support Light Yagami and Kira. But no, let's keep it real here, right? He killed a lot of innocent people. And ultimately, you can almost pinpoint the reason, right? The reason he ultimately ends up going down that path and ultimately ends up on those stairs, dead on those stairs. And, again, I thought it was quite, I thought it was great presentation there, him dying in the middle of those stairs, right? After showing us that mid-episode card, confirming that the world of this anime, indeed, there is no heaven or hell. It's purgatory. It's nothingness. Right, so again, a visual depiction of that as well. Him dying on the stairs. Yes, Kira or Light Yagami, they had a plan, this master plan, a new world that he was going to create, right? But since the beginning, it was so clear, right? It was so clear that this individual has a god complex, right? He's got quite the ego on him. He's arrogant. He wanted to be around. He wanted to be around. And of course, to be worshipped as the god of the new world, right? He loved all that. That's what he wanted. Let's not forget that. And yes, the whole concept of crime rates dropping by 70% it's insane. Of course, that is insane. And stopping wars and all that. I've spoken of that in past episodes, especially after the time skip. Right? Around the time Light Yagami becomes really quite laid back, really turns it down a notch and becomes so much more prone to slip-ups and mistakes. But up until this point, a lot of those mistakes are not crucial mistakes that end up kind of punishing him. Here, he continues to make these small mistakes here and there, and this one ultimately led to his downfall, right? I don't know, man. I guess there's a lot of angles to this. Some could argue that Mikami is the one that actually was the downfall of Light Yagami. But if, that being said, who picked Mikami? Light Yagami picked him in the first place, right? Because to Light Yagami, it felt like Mikami is so in line with Kira and Kira's beliefs, right? And that this is someone that could kind of follow in Kira's footsteps and make the calls if needed, right? And, I brought this up, didn't I? Yes, even if Mikami is quite competent, even if Naomi Takada is quite competent and loyal, they both are, it is still something that is being outsourced. It is still something that isn't ultimately in his control. There is still that room for a slip-up. There is still that room for an error. But as intelligent as he is, as impressive as he was, one thing that he could not change, one thing that is part of him, that is part of his character, the one thing that he could not change is his arrogant nature, his ego, his hubris ultimately got the better of him, right? It was his downfall. and there's hints of that really early on as well, right? Going all the way back to moments like him killing Lindell Taylor, right? Moments of him killing Naomi, right? I remember mentioning even back then that, this is going to bite him in the ass at some point. And of course, there's that cliffhanger, the massive cliffhanger in the last episode, him straight up just, declaring, I win. Ultimately, it ends up being the biggest mistake, right? Biggest mistake, because he just couldn't help himself, right? It's the one thing he could not change about himself. And yeah, it's just so silly, right? His arrogance, his ego, that's the one thing that actually does make him a little bit stupid, doesn't it? That does make him prone to these mistakes. And of course, his post-time skip nature, after kind of disposing of L, he becomes even more arrogant. He becomes even more careless, right, in his choices. And yeah, it puts him in the corner quite a bit. And because of that, he kind of slowly kind of lets Nier know, right? Nier just had to prove it. Nier's ultimate goal here was to do it by the book, right? He wanted to attack him, to decimate him, to crush him by the book, right? In front of these individuals in positions of power, right? Authority, be it the SPK, be it the task force, right? He wanted to do this in front of everyone, to expose him in front of everyone. And, you see just how proud he was that, a combo of him and the late Mello was able to do it in the memory of L, right? In the spirit of L. By cold hard evidence, right? Take him down in that manner. Because up until this point, he already knew. He knew Light Yagami's Kira. I mean, in fact, there's so many silly moments. Light Yagami straight up kind of, he's trying to troll Nier over the phone as he is, kind of pretending to be L. He's straight up telling him indirectly, oh, I am Kira, but you can't get to me. Oh, look, remember, there's that one moment. He essentially just gives it. He gives it to him. And this was around the time he gets the building attacked, the SPK HQ attacked, right? He was so sure that Nier is not going to have a backup, right? One of his biggest mistakes since post-time skip has been a lack of plan B, right? No contingency plans. He's so sure of himself that he almost doesn't even think of the possibility of anyone being able to be on that same level, anyone being able to actually match him and kind of, outfox him, right? He doesn't even think of that possibility. So that's kind of stupid as well, right? Again, that careless nature gets to him. It really does. And, how could he, on one end, he picks on Mikami because of how impressed he is, because of how much he is kind of like Kira, right? How much he embodies Kira in his ideals and his beliefs, right? So how could he not anticipate that someone like Mikami could think of doing that, right? In fact, that was one of the main reasons he wanted Mikami in the first place, because he knew that, if I'm not able to make a move, someone like Mikami is intelligent enough to know the situation and read it like I would, right? And by I mean Kira, Light Yagami. Yet he's not able to anticipate that upon seeing the situation Naomi Takada is in, or Kiyomi Takada, excuse me, how could he not anticipate that Mikami might have the same thought? One of Light Yagami's greatest qualities and abilities has been how he anticipates behavior and how people might react given a certain situation. And then moving it even further, taking it even further, and kind of anticipating even beyond that. That was one of the really exciting parts of the first half of the series, right? Him and L kind of going back and forth, kind of anticipating moves before they even happen, right? Because they kind of had an understanding for each other, right? Their skills, right? Their abilities. So both of them are kind of able to do this back and forth, right? Kind of anticipate a move ahead of time, 2 moves ahead, right? That's one of Light Yagami's greatest qualities, or it was. Yet here, he was not able to anticipate. Again, he got soft. He really did get soft. And, it was clear. It was clear that it was going to be problematic. The moment that the link is severed, the link being Kiyomi Takada, the moment that was severed, there was always a possibility of a mix-up like this, right? And the hypocrisy of Light Yagami's chosen one, soul salvation angle, right? And he really hams it up here, doesn't he? Right? It almost felt like a grand performance. All that grandstanding, almost as if he's been kind of practicing and kind of imagining that speech of his for a long time, and he finally gets to kind of put it out there, right, for an audience. And I've first of all, I've got to say the voice acting. I thought that was just brilliant. The individual doing Light Yagami's voice acting here, wow, most impressive. But I'll return to that. Let me just kind of finish my point. His slip up, right? The Mikami slip up. Listen, if Mikami doesn't do that, and if Mello doesn't, make the move he does, take the risk he does, there's every chance he gets near. There's every chance Light Yagami gets near. Actually, it's pretty much a given that he would have taken Nier down, right? And alongside Nier, everyone else, right? And then you really do have Mikami and Light. Though of course, I personally believe he probably would have taken out Mikami as well, right? And then there's nothing. There's no loose ends. And I clearly remember thinking and mentioning that no matter how competent they might be, these are unknowns in the sense that you can't completely 100% control them. It's still just not as airtight as just doing everything yourself, right? He outsources a lot, right? Especially in the second half, post timescape, he outsources everything essentially, right? Misa is a different story. Misa was just obsessed, right? She was down to do everything. She was the one that he was really able to control and have complete control over. But kind of circling back to the hypocrisy of being the soul salvation, the chosen one, and that grand performance of his, he needed so many people to make things happen, right? He used them, he manipulated them like puppets. But without a lot of these people, he's not getting this far. He needed these people, right? He needed to make use of them. He needed to outsource. He needed to do a lot of that. And this whole idea he's got in his head that only he could have done it, right? He's posing the question, could anyone have gone this far? Could anyone have done it, right? I'm the chosen one. Only I'm the one that could make a new world. Yet a few feet over, you have someone like Mikami, someone who is so much like Kira, who is so much like Yagami, right? So much like him that Light Yagami himself picks him, right? I think Mikami could have done the same thing, right? In fact, Mikami doesn't have that God complex, does he? Right? He could have been more effective. Yeah, I really do think so. And I think I brought that up at one point around the time Mikami is introduced, that, he might have been a better Kira than Kira himself. So, this whole notion of only I could have done it, again, it really plays into that whole God complex he's had. That whole idea, the notion of being bored, kind of resurfaces right at the end here, right at the conclusion, be it Ryuk's boredom, be it Light Yagami's boredom. And I've got to say that one scene of him kind of running for it, wow, a love tide was presented. I mean, the episode itself, the score, the photography of this, right, the visual element of this episode is quite fantastic, right? But that shot specifically, I loved how it lingered, right? It just stayed on it, and it's so deliberate, right? You really start to feel his desperation. Listen, I didn't feel sad that Light Yagami is facing the consequences of his actions, of his really despicable actions, but I did have pity for him, right? It was kind of like, look at this, right? And I feel like a lot of the task force actually did have pity for him as well. Their reactions, yeah, you don't see a lot of anger in their faces. Yes, Matsuda certainly was quite angry. But people like Ayazawa and Mogi, they're quite, calm. And to me, it felt like they had a lot of pity for the person he's become, right? Or, they're finding out for the first time the person he is. But again, that visual storytelling is quite fantastic here, right? As he's kind of running and he starts having these hallucinations, or he's starting to think back to some key moments. But him having those hallucinations of that day, that fateful day, he does come across a death note, a fresh-faced young Light Yagami. Is there even a bit of remorse there, right? As he's in these moments. thinking back to that moment, thinking, kind of doubting himself, perhaps realizing, did I do the right thing? Could things have turned out differently if I just walked away? What if I didn't go back for that death note? Yeah, I thought that was a great scene. A younger Light Yagami in the beginning stages of becoming Kira, and this Light Yagami, desperate, unhinged, pathetic, really. I'll get into that aspect of it as well. And it feels like it's really by design, folks. Yes, a lot of you know that I'm not a Light Yagami fan, but, I feel like it's really quite deliberate, right? The light he's painted in this episode it's really quite deliberate, folks. It really is. It's quite unmissable. I don't think anyone can argue that he's kind of depicted as this unhinged, pathetic, desperate individual at the end there. And that's one of the reasons I feel like, there's a lot of pity there. Even I had a little bit of pity for him, right? To see him like this cornered, rat, trying everything, everything that's been so impressive about him, right? It's failing him here. His charm, his charisma, everything. And now he's just like this desperate demon. And, I mentioned the visual storytelling. It's so clear to see that he's kind of drawn. He's kind of like a demon. I felt like, the depiction of Light Yagami here is quite ugly, right? None of that charm, none of that charisma, none of that, composed, attractive nature of his. No, none of that. Here he's like a demon, a cornered animal. Pitiful sight, isn't it? But, I've got to say that laugh, the manic state and that laugh, wow, it's a haunting moment. And you see the task force's reaction to it as well. They're thinking, this is a Light Yagami that's been a part of our team this whole time. This disgusting individual, this pathetic individual, right? This is his true nature, right? That being said, almost immediately as he does make it out, Mikami loyal till the end, you'll have to correct me unless it's a spoil. I mean, it's the last episode of the series, unless it's manga spoilers, I guess, but you'll have to correct me. But it appears that he did give him one last chance, one last shot. He gave Kami, even though Kami kind of disowns him, and you see it hurts Mikami quite a bit. Though, again, he's kind of pleading right at the end. Mikami, do something, write their names down. He's asking, he's so desperate, but he's got no one. He's shunned everyone, right? He pushed everyone out. He used everyone. He manipulated everyone. He discarded everyone. He has no one at the end, right? Not even Matsuda. He's got no one in his corner, and he's desperate, right? And you see it hits him hard that he has no one. He's about to die alone, right? Alone, scared. Yeah. And, again, that kind of brings me back to that moment. As he's running outside, right, as the shot is lingering and kind of sits there, it's quite a poignant moment. Then he goes to his face. That Light Yagami, wow, almost innocent looking, right? There, you do feel pity for him. There you see that, okay, now it really hit him. It really hit him. His actions have really hit him there, right? In his final moments, he's really going through it, really kind of contemplating all of his deeds up until that point. But yeah, at that point, he looks like a young adult again, right? Innocent, desperate, as opposed to that demon inside, right? Again, great visual storytelling. I thought it was most impressive. These last two episodes have been really quite impressive, quite enjoyable, right? It's just the lead up to them. The pacing has been really quite insane, right? But yeah, the final two episodes have been great for sure. Though I do feel like I still feel like it could have used another 5 minutes maybe for some kind of aftermath epilogue, because there's so much to unpack after, or the effects of post Kira, right? Crap, I keep kind of jumping all over the place. I'll come back to that prospect, but that shot of him as he's making a run for it, yeah, it is a haunting moment. It is, right? He looks quite innocent. He looks quite scared for his life, quite lost, right? That he has no one, and he doesn't, because he pushed them all out, right? He dies alone in some factory, on the stairs of a factory. Yes, the symbolism there is quite fantastic, but of course, dies alone. This god of the new world dies like a rat. But I must admit, I thought it was quite surprising that Light Yagami didn't plea with Ryuk even once. He didn't even call out to Ryuk even once. To me, that felt so strange. I was so expecting him to, kind of call out for help because he was so desperate, right? I felt like at least he would try to see if Ryuk is maybe open to having a bit more fun or something, right? It was not going to happen in his favor, no chance in hell. But I find it really surprising that he didn't, plea or beg or something, because he was quite desperate. He was really desperate, and yeah, again, I must admit, inside, as he is in that desperate mode, essentially, it was quite satisfying. And I'm sure for many of you, it must have been quite satisfying. And I guess for many of you, it was a bit sad, right? A bit frustrating to see him like that. I don't know, man. I thought it was satisfying. He had all of this coming. He really did, right? That's not to say that I would have been completely upset or anything if it had an ending that does have Light Yagami come out on top, right? That could have been interesting for sure, right? Yes, I would have been kind of disgusted, but I think an ending like that, it takes balls, but I felt like there's some telltale signs it was never going to have that type of ending, right? I felt like you just couldn't give him that type of ending after some of the disgusting and despicable things he's done, right? I remember around the time Soichiro Yagami dies, right, on his deathbed. In that post-episode discussion I mentioned, no, I simply cannot see how they have an ending to this series that has Light Yagami come out on top. No, right? But I must admit, it still would have been interesting. It would have been interesting. But just because Light Yagami and Kira is dead, it doesn't mean that he hasn't left his mark. And, that's one of the reasons I'm kind of annoyed that there isn't an epilogue. Like, just even a quick one, just a few moments. Show us people like the SBK. Show us people like Nier, right? Or sorry, not SBK, Nier, really. Show us the task force. Come on, show us how they deal with the fallout of this, the aftermath of this. This has affected them so much, right? Show me how how it affects the true believers, right? How do they take this, right? How do they continue the crusade of Kira? There's so much that needs to be explored, really, to be honest. And maybe it is explored in detail in the manga. I know there are a few extras. I think it's called L's Funeral, right? Though I was kind of told to maybe skip that until I finish the show. So yeah, I'll check that out. And there is a movie, I think, but I think the movie is just kind of like a condensed version of the entire anime, right? But you'll have to let me know. You'll have to let me know if there is anything extra that does kind of go into the aftermath, right? The epilogue. Perhaps the manga does have that, so that gives me even more incentive to dive into the manga, especially for post time skip or post L. There's a lot to be explored, man. There's still 2 copies of the Death Note on Earth. Yes, they're in custody, of course. But yeah, it would have been interesting to see how they deal with that, right? Ryuk, yeah, it's a great final shot. Ryuk perched up on that tower, and it kind of pans to a crescent moon, fades to black. That one shot of Ryuk writing Light Yagami's name down, that is one of the greatest shots of the anime, of any anime, really. I'm pretty sure that's going to end up being my thumbnail for this. It feels so iconic, right? Ryuk finally using his Death Note, right? Finally breaking it open, right? Something that was set up all the way back in episode 1, right? It's not a shocker, is it? He told him straight up, once the time comes, I'll be the one to write your name down. To see it happen is quite the sight. And how about Mrs. Yagami, Soichiro's wife? Insane. She's been through just so much. Like, you would think someone like that is not going to have any reason to live, right? Her husband's dead. her daughter is just not there anymore, right? She's really not. She might be alive, but she's just not there. She's scarred for life, traumatized for life, because of Light Yagami for putting her in that situation in the first place, right? And now also finding out that her son is dead, right? Actually, I don't know. See, that's the thing. I don't know. That's one of the things I would have loved to find out, how people deal with all of this. Again, maybe it goes into a bit more detail in the manga. There's so much. I feel like there's so much that can be explored post, Light Yagami death. So for that reason, it felt a bit abrupt. It did. I feel like I didn't get the complete closure. Even if I do think the episode itself was a great episode, I feel like there's still so much that could be explored. Now then, let's be honest. There's a lot of moments here that require us, the audience, to kind of overlook some things, right? Listen, how come Mikami didn't just have a page of the Death Note on him at all times? Someone so intelligent, someone so careful, meticulous. You would think he would just carry a piece of the Death Note on him, right? Just in case. For this reason, right? And then, Light Yagami, he knew for a fact that Mikami is being tailed because Mikami himself confirmed it, right? How could he not possibly think that there is, even if it's a tiny chance, there is a minuscule chance that yes, there could be some kind of mix-up, there could be an attempt, right? Again, I guess, that one you can kind of chalk up to Light Yagami's ego, right? Just not thinking that a plan B is needed, just not thinking of that possibility, just thinking that no one can even actually get to him. But, the whole, Mikami having to go grab the Death Note, rather than just having a piece of it on him at all times, right? Because if Mikami doesn't go there, then Giovanni doesn't go there and see the true location of the Death Note, and Mikami can just end up using the page he has on him at all times, right? If he was to take a page. And then that brings me to Giovanni. Yes, his efforts are quite crucial to taking down Kira and Light Yagami, but again, there is him kind of replicating the Death Note so perfectly that Mikami was fooled, right? And he did all of that in one night. He was able to kind of replicate his writing. They were able to replicate the condition of the Death Note all in one night. I don't know, man. It's a tough bridge to cross, right? To accept that. But it is one of those situations you kind of just have to accept, okay, this happened, right? This really did happen, and that's how it ended up going down. But yeah, ultimately, I suppose I was on the right track. His meticulous and his rigid schedule and any deviation, the slight deviation from it, did end up playing a major part, right? Giovanni was still on his tail. Him going to the bank twice in quick succession. Something is really off here, right? Something is really off here. And yeah, ultimately he gives up the location of the actual Death Note. So Giovanni touched it first, so he must have seen Ryuk, or maybe not. And then of course Nier touched the book as well, so he saw Ryuk in the last episode, right? I suppose that was a smirk. But again, is Ryuk not going to know that these people can see him? Maybe shouldn't Ryuk, as a lord of death, right, as a god of death, as Shinigami, shouldn't he know who's touched the Death Note? I don't know. But still, I guess I was kind of on the money about that, right? Maybe Nier did tell Giovanni, all right, it might be a little bit strange, might be a little bit creepy, but keep it airtight, keep it to yourself. Don't look at the Shinigami. Don't make it seem like you're noticing the Shinigami. There's a lot of other great moments after kind of Light puts on that show, that grandstanding, I'm the chosen one, I'm this, and I'm going to be the king of the new world, and that I'm the only one who can do this. So, there's rotten people, someone has to do it. Nier just cuts through all of that. A gut punch for Light Yagami, tells him you're none of those things, right? You're just some guy who has a god complex. Something kind of happened to fall in your lap, and you kind of mistook that for, being a god yourself, right? Ultimately, Light was also kind of used, right, by Ryuk. Yeah, I love that moment. He tells it like it is, and Nier is spot on. He is, he is a mass murderer. He's a serial killer. He is. He has been since the beginning. So it was satisfying. It was. It was almost like a cathartic moment to see him like this. And I've got to say, those final moments of L appearing to Light, or Light kind of hallucinating, right? Or those hallucinations kind of continuing right till his final moments. Seeing L. There's that beautiful shot, right? You see L's blue hair, but his eyes are kind of covered by one of those beams. But the fact that L appears to Light right at the end there, wow, that's quite the choice. Quite the choice that those are in his final moments, in his dying moments. L is still lingering, right? L is still on his mind. That right till the end, he was still fighting L. So, I love the representation of L. Be it that silly mask that Nier has, be it those puppets, hand puppets, finger puppets, be it Nier being quite respectful and complimentary of someone like L, and also, being quite thankful of Mello as well, who is essentially the second half. He is the other half. Those two together make up L. And I love that Nier accepts that, yes, on his own, maybe he wasn't as good as L. Maybe he wasn't going to be able to take Light down, but because of Mello, who knew this, right? Again, he's a maverick. He's quite bombastic in his approach, but he's intelligent, right? He sees some things that Nier could not see, just like how Nier could see some things Mello can't see. But again, bring those two together, you have a formidable duo, right? Almost as good as L, essentially. Almost. They believe, Nier believes together they could have surpassed L. But yeah, I thought it was fitting. But yeah, folks, I think that's about it. Like I mentioned, I'm not really doing a full series write-off or a full series review. I feel like I'm just not in the best position to do that at the moment. It could happen. It could still happen. I'll watch it again at some point. I'll certainly read the manga, especially for post L. Right. So maybe once I read the manga and I have that comparison in mind, maybe I could come back to this down the line. I'm not even sure if anyone cares for that. I don't want to make promises, but it could happen. Something like that could happen down the line at some point, if there is enough interest in it. But, let's kind of look at it overall, right? Death Note overall. Like I mentioned, it's been on my watch list for a long time, long before any of the YouTube stuff started, long before any of that, back in my high school days. It's been on the watch list since then, right? And, it was quite hyped up. It really was. And, it's spoken of in a really high regard, right? Be it the anime itself, it's claimed to be one of the greatest anime of all time, and then like Yagami as one of the greatest anime characters of all time, right? Apparently he's one of the best. Folks, you're here for my honest take on things, right? I mean, this is not going to be anything shocking. You've seen my reaction now of all 37 episodes, and you've seen that, yeah, I don't think Light Yagami's that great. I just don't. If you go back to episode 1, I was into it. I made it clear, I don't like this guy, but, I was still kind of into it and excited to see this corruption arc. But, as the episodes go on, he became so insufferable, right? Juvenile even, right? Listen, I'm not trying to take a dig at anyone. I'm not. This is just my opinion on the matter. It is my channel, so of course it's my opinion. I do feel like this anime is for a really specific age group, perhaps, a specific demographic, perhaps, young adults, maybe, teenagers. It is shonen, right? And it was confirmed to me on multiple occasions that, yeah, it is meant to be for teenagers. You could see how, right? It could be for a younger demographic. One of the most common types of comments I've seen over the run of these 37 episodes, be it on Patreon or on the YouTube comment sections, the comment is usually about how people used to really love Light Yagami and they used to be on his side at a much younger age, right? But then years later, as they kind of go back to the series, be it through just watching it again or be it through reactions, they've stated that, no, they had a totally different opinion on the matter, right? I've seen those comments, right? I'm not saying that's the case for everyone because I know more than enough people really adore this character. They really like this character, right? There was a lot to appreciate about this type of character and the focus on this type of character. So yeah, ultimately I think it doesn't reach any of that hype for me. Again, for me, it didn't reach any of the hype that was being built up for Death Note. The character of Light Yagami, I mean, I've got a lot of stuff, a lot of anime on my watch list. I feel like I'll see so many characters that are going to surpass someone like Light Yagami for me. Light Yagami did not live up to one of the greatest anime protagonist hype for me. He just didn't. I'm being honest. I have no reason to be biased against something. This is my honest take. This is my experience. No, it didn't do it for me. Light Yagami, decent character. Right, decent character. And listen, folks, I'm not trying to put anyone down. I'm not trying to put down anyone's opinion. This is just my opinion. I'm being honest. That's the reason you're here, right? This is my first time reaction and this is my first time take on it. And hopefully you can appreciate that. I'm not just saying that I loved Light Yagami. I loved everything about it just for the sake of it, just to make people happy. And I know there must be others that think like this or have the same opinion or the same take on Light Yagami, right? Surely I'm not the only one. But yeah, I think for now I'll sign off here. I thought the first half was really quite enjoyable, right? L and everything else, Yotsuba Corporation arc was really, really quite enjoyable, entertaining. I really liked it. And then, post time skip, there's a lot of elements here that could have been great, right? There's characters here that are really intriguing, really, right? And I would love to explore a bit more of them in detail. And for that reason, I am going to go to the manga. So yeah, folks, that's about it for this one. That's a wrap on Death Note, kind of. I still need to kind of explore it a bit further, kind of, rewatch the anime. I feel like next time I kind of want to binge it, of course on my own time, but next time I kind of want to binge it. There was just too many breaks, yes, let's be honest about that. There's just too many breaks in the middle. I took that big break, like I mentioned earlier, and then again, 3-4 months again. But yeah, I'll probably binge it at some point once I can kind of squeeze it in, and then I'll also read the manga. And maybe, I don't want to promise anything. Maybe I'll kind of do one more. Maybe I'll do one more segment on Death Note, right? If there's even any interest in it, I don't even know, folks. Let's be honest, this series kind of almost died a slow death on my channel, didn't it? Right? There's no point of sugarcoating it. So if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments. Yeah, give me your thoughts, folks. Yeah, I'm really actually quite excited for this comment section. It'll be interesting. I could tell it'll be interesting. If you're interested in full length for this or any of the past episodes, consider checking out the Patreon page. Link is in the description and the pinned comment. If you're here just for Death Note and that's the last time, thank you for joining me. Maybe it was a good experience. Maybe it was a pleasant experience. Maybe it wasn't because of my take on Light Yagami and my dislike for Light Yagami. But, it is what it is. I'm trying to keep it real. I kept it real. But if you are sticking around, there is going to be more anime on the channel. Chainsaw Man is another one that I'll be doing as it airs. Right, I've been meaning to make that change. I need to tap into some of the buzz and excitement that something new brings to the channel. So yeah, stick around for that. There's a lot of anime to come. There's a lot of anime to come. Again, you can check out the watch list for the potential there is for anime content on the channel. Whew. Okay, so thank you for joining me and thank you for your time because time is precious. But until next time, take it easy.